during David Goggins' 4x4x48 challenge, I mentioned a concept called consistency. And then I must have cursed myself because I have a minor neck strain. I'd love to report some exciting breaking go down or dynamic power move that I fucked up on. But really, the truth is boring. I either slept poorly, worked on the computer poorly, and now I have minor neck strain. I'm disclosing this because I think this is the first dance vlog, that's my injury is obvious. I mentioned that I've been injured once during this entire year, despite dancing consistently 2.5 hours each day, 5 days a week, 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. To maintain that consistency, I've followed top MMA coach, mixed martial arts coach Faraz Zahabi in his advice, which is instead of maxing out your performance and output every single workout and then blowing yourself up only to recover for several days, try lesser output per workout, but at a level that you can maintain over the long term. So obviously this takes some guesswork, and through some trial and error I found the right consistency for me. But to be honest, I'm happy that I've been able to maintain this level of consistent output, because the answer could have been very different. The outcome could have been very different. But as luck would have it, something relatively innocuous has leveled me. So I'm trying to figure out whether I'm even going to do any dancing today. I think I probably will still throw down some moves because I'm keeping in the tradition. Around this time is when I started dancing. I think the actual day will come sometime next week. Yeah. So this is the vlog before the actual day. And the anniversary is bittersweet. I've mentioned on the 4x4x48s and in many previous vlogs that I never would have chosen this course of action. But I'm also the type of person who can maximize myself within constraints. The constraint of the world is what it is. The pandemic is what it is. And I've found a way to make it productive and fun for me. Dance has been it for me. And dance in more creative a way than just rote memorization and execution. I've actually also created dances while learning to dance as well. Some might think that's like running before walking, and in some ways it is, but I've liked the creativity of it, and to be completely honest, I like the dances that I've come up with. In some ways I've even wondered, what would the dances look like with a professional dancer choreographer dancing it? That'd be interesting to know. I think that my choreography is actually fucking fantastic enough that it would look good. Okay. So, I'm actually ahead of schedule with choreographing my next choreography. The question becomes, will I be able to perform it on schedule next week? Who knows? And this last couple of weeks, I've participated in a number of fun projects, starting with Goggins 4x4x48 in which I danced 4 miles every 2.5 hours over 48 hours. I modified that from Goggins' intent, which was run 4 hours every 4 hours over 48 hours. Goggins himself, though, also modified his own challenge. I think on his second to last run, he actually ran jumping jacks. I decided to shuffle dance the entire time. Okay, well, I guess today I'm gonna have to modify some dance moves because the angling is what it is. I need the camera at this angle because otherwise my neck strains too much and I'd hardly finish a vlog that way. I'm also running low on bats, so this is gonna be really slow tutting. Yes, it is gonna be slow. Oh man, yeah. See? Maybe I'll tell the exciting version of the story. This could be breaking related, except for the fact that I've yet to fully dedicate to those dynamic power moves because I'm really far off that progression. If you've ever watched breakdancing in its full form, you'll notice that it is something that you gotta be careful with because the moves are so athletic, dynamic, difficult that you're gonna have to expect to fuck up a lot before you get good. But in those fuck ups, you have to prepare for the fact that you will be injured. I think that's a fact of getting good, and so far I've concentrated on the elements of breaking that are low injury potential, as long as you take your time. So Faraz Zahabi's advice has been helpful in many ways because, yes, I really should be taking care for something like breakdancing to just be chill and allow the progress to be what it is. If at the end of the day I just become good at the stand-up dancing portion of breaking, which is called top rock, then that's fine. That's actually been a lot of fun too. I'll have some elements of going down and down rocking, but I'll always be missing some components because I think those components might be too far out of reach at this point. Who knows? We'll have to think and do as I go. Part of the Poor Posture project is me working on my rockumentary, which is the mental challenge that I paired with David Goggins' challenge. I've made much progress on that rockumentary, but I've done so at a price. So I still have a fun fucking project that has a deadline in the next couple of days. So I'm gonna have to think about how this works. Slow tutting. Slow tutting works. Ooh. The constraint on today's vlog will be the battery life. I'm sure that my vlog will end off in any second. So that's why I wanted to get some dance moves in. vlog always has some elements of dance because dance has been it for me for this last year. Dance is how I've discovered an entire element of my creativity. Dance has also helped me in other aspects of my creativity, or largely this vlogging process has. One thing I've discovered that I wish I'd discovered earlier in my creative career is my ability to write through oration. So, as a youngster, when computers were just becoming the norm, I used to do what other people did. Type and draft and redraft again like this. But I've since noticed from vlogging extensively as I have over the past couple of years that I come up with much better material when I'm orating than when I'm physically typing or writing by hand. Instead of wondering why, I've leaned into that because that's what a creative person wishes for. Yes, I might have found the technique late, but the fact that I found it at all is good enough. So I've been leaning in on it. This upcoming project, fun project that I'll reveal a little bit later after I've submitted it, is related to writing. This is in my wheelhouse. I should excel in it, at least according to my own standards. The odds of winning, though, are better than lottery, but less than any other contest I've participated in. If you consider things like college, med school admissions essays as contests. And in some ways maybe I'll describe them better as skilled contests, because there's always an element of luck in them. There's also an element of maybe corruption, selection, bias, all that stuff. But for me, I'm concerned with representing the art the best way possible, and that's always my concern. Sometimes I have debates with myself about whether I should try to be more accessible to an audience, but honestly I think I have to be me, and being me is being me. Ooh. Just running through a little bit of tutting. Tutting is fun. Except if it causes me to pinch my neck when it goes awry. Actually, I could relabel this as a sports injury, because after the poor postures of sleeping and working, I also did a arm-heavy tut-whacking portion of choreography, which could have also thrown me off. In any case, this reminds me of the pain of 10 years or more ago when I was rehabbing from a major back injury. This is a reminder of how terrible those days were and how much I've grown and blossomed since then, since taking ownership of my own health and my own situation. Maybe that's the topic that I'll leave on. Victimhood versus extreme ownership. So I've tried both techniques on, and that's something that think has worked well for me. Instead of ingraining any specific technique into my identity, I'm a scientist first and foremost. Whatever yields results regardless. So I've tried being a victim, and I've tried being an owner, and I think being an owner has made all the difference in the world in terms of results. Okay. When I debate this, I often wonder to myself, if you relinquish the victim role, what does that mean? Okay. In my mind, I still have every reason to feel sad about my situation when I was younger. Instead of rehashing all of that, I'll just let that be as it is, regardless of what anyone else would think about my circumstances. My own read on it is the most important. So yes, I think I experienced crippling tragedy when I was younger. Okay. And many of those crippling tragic events were out of my control because I was just a youngster back then. So I even have reason to blame, and reason to be angry, and reason to feel like a victim. But the attitude that's moved me forward has been taking extreme ownership. Because in that attitude, I know that results come from actions. And in a way, we know this from the real world, that results come from actions. I had two choices when I was rehabilitating my back. And when I felt like a victim, I did fewer things that I could do to help myself. So the reason why I was able to fully recover a chronic back injury of since when I was a child was because I took my rehab into my own hands. I actually dedicated myself to movement, stretching, yoga in a way that is so deeply profound to me, because I know that those exercises keep me healthy. In particular, my physio at the time offered me the best advice I've ever heard, which is, you could come to me every week and I could relieve your pain briefly during a session. But the only way that you're going to fully rehab is if you dedicate yourself to exercising in those days intermediate between our meetings. Because otherwise, I can only do so much for you, and you can only afford so much rehab, as in money-wise. So I learned that lesson well, because I noticed that, at least at first, I had to ramp up slowly in terms of my activity and exercise, but once I fully integrated it, that opened up the whole world of activity to me. All of the adventure travel, extreme sports, wild animal encounters that ensued were all because I laid the groundwork for taking ownership of my own health. That was a distinct decision I had to make, and I can remember when I made it. Again, sometimes I'm going to still fall into this whole debate about whether I should forgive and forget my past. And some days I'm better than others. I think it's patently clear that my parents were at the root of a lot of my distress as a youngster, but I've also glowingly exclaimed that I've explored 7 continents with my mom. So there might be some cognitive dissonance there. Okay? In some ways, I still hate her, but in some ways, I've also purposely sought her companionship on some of the greatest achievements of my life. So, life is sometimes messy that way, that you'll have these feelings of negative, positive, sometimes within the same second, within the same minute, but regardless of whether I feel this way or that way about her role in things, I need to take an active role in my own life. And that's how I've accomplished everything I've accomplished. There's no way I would have been able to accomplish any of this without taking some form of extreme ownership. So, extreme ownership is the coined term of Jocko Willink. Another one of David Goggins' ex-military soldier community members. I'll openly admit that I'm a lot less in extreme ownership than Jocko, because there are some days where I still default back to blaming and being a victim, but largely I've had to move in the other direction in order to have anything in terms of results. So that's the difficult, nuanced position that I have, which is, if you feel like a victim, you have probably every right to feel that way. But then the question becomes, is being a victim helping you achieve what you want to achieve? And if the answer is no, then maybe you have to try something else to get you somewhere else. You can still have whatever feelings you have towards perpetrators. For me, I live with my perpetrator, so it's an interesting situation that arises. In many ways, my mom is my perpetrator, but also one of my best friends. So we're always going to have a very complicated relationships. I hate her, but I also brought her to 7 continents with me when I could have easily just had those adventures by myself. Yeah, so I'm actually surprised my phone is holding up for so long. I wonder how much time I have left. I might even have enough to last for my normal vlog sessions. I have so much that I could talk about, say. This is really interesting. That's a good question. How injured could I be if I can still tut? And that's the thing. It's like being a scientist, which is what I've been spitfiring about. Being a scientist is being more adapted to truth than to form or function. So instead of being horribly, horribly wed to any idea, you're prioritizing results. And you deal with whatever the consequences are as you go. So, in any case, this is what's worked for me, and I think this will be what works for me in the coming situations, because it's been what's worked for about a decade now. But I'm always consistently experimenting. I'm sure there are other techniques that I could be trying, but I think the major difference is between victimhood and taking ownership. I have a modified version. I take ownership while still realizing that I have every right to feel like a victim sometimes if I want to. And in many ways, those are days when you feel maybe lazy or less like accomplishing things, and you're going to have an active conversation about it with yourself and with others. Okay. In any case, I really am happy with what I've achieved this year, even if I have a weird situation happening right now. I've done what I can do. It's been a lot of fun. This has been one of these.
Stop getting that.
I'm vlogging. Speak of the devil.
Hello?
I've actually considered that, if that would work. Hey, child. I have a couple minutes to wrap up, and then I'll be finished. And I'm surprised that the phone has lasted this entire time. So what am I doing to wrap up? This has actually been another one of those Spitfire sessions for me. Some of the stuff that I've just said is going to make its way into the project that has a horrible deadline coming up. My goal is always to represent the art in the best way possible, best being authentic. So I'm less worried about whether the art has impact on others and more focused on just representing it the way it wants to be represented. I know when I talk about this, I'm talking as if the art is a separate person with its own separate feelings, goals, and ways of representation, but that's how I truly feel. I feel like there's a way that I can represent it within a realm of authenticity, and I'm never going to be 100% authentic, because I think that art at its true core is beyond communication, really. But as an artist, I'm trying to use the human tools of communication in this particular project, the written word, to represent the art as best as possible, while knowing I'll never achieve it, that authenticity, 100%. So, with a minute left, I'm gonna wind the vlog down. Oh, I would have performed a sneak peek of this new choreography of mine, but the camera angle has forced some other dancing out of me, so it is what it is. Oh. Ah. It is what it is. Jesus. Go back down on this level because that other level's too high. Any more finger tutting? I think I've done about as much as I could.